Now, it's time for the Anchormen Podcast with Dan Ball and Riley Lewis.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into the Anchorman Podcast. Another week has gone by in the United States of America. We're still here. We're still winning. We're still kicking. I'm Dan Ball alongside my pal, Riley Lewis. We got a great guest tonight. A real dude's dude. Real man's man. Likes to ride motorcycle like me. Doesn't take any like me. Likes Trump.
That's it, really.
Yep.
That's about it.
Let's bring him on. No.
Yeah.
We will in a second. We'll set him up. We'll set him up a little bit better than that intro. Okay? Because I don't want this guy coming after me. He's got friends on motorcycles. And you know what they say about motorcycle gangs? You don't want to mess with them. But these are good American bikers that he presides over in his club. And it's all about supporting Trump. And he's done much, much more than his group Bikers for Trump, which we'll get to in a moment. But first,
I have an idea, by the way, for his crew if they're looking for something to do.
oh, if you say what I think you're going to say,
Well, what do you think?
and I don't know, we didn't plan this.
No, yeah, what'd you
Drive to Minneapolis and crack some heads?
Well, that's part of it. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. What were you going to say?
We need someone, just anybody, to go around to every single daycare center in America, find the fraud. There's every single day.
Just ride around and videotape and see if there's kids actually going in. And then go to the autism centers and make sure they're going in. Then go to the Medicare and Medicaid centers and see who's going in to get the free Medicaid and Medicare that we're paying for.
Every Leering center in the country has to be investigated. So if they're looking for something to do, I think we should enlist their help.
Did you see last week? It was the best timing you could have after all the outrage of the Renee Good shooting with the ICE agent who was hit by the car. Facts matter. And Tampon Timmy Walls comes out to give that, press conference. And you saw the audio was so screwed up, right? The audio was looping. It was like over top of itself. So he was talking, and then you would hear him 10 seconds later say something from 30 seconds later like it was horrible, right?
Yep.
And I just remember, I think I said it on the show or somebody, whatever, but we're like, the audio tech person from the governor's staff obviously went to the Somali Leering Center because he doesn't even know how to run a freaking audio board. Some Somali taught him how to run that audio board at the Leering Center.
I never would have guessed that it's a top issue right now, but 2026 modern America, here we are.
Crazy.
Somali run daycare centers, Ohio, Washington, California, Maine now too.
Maine.
And of course, Minnesota. And all because some
And Texas, I hear.
Yes.
You got to go to Texas. I'm telling you.
Oh, and Ohio.
My home state, Columbus. That's where Nick Schur and their guys found the second big, because it's the second largest Somali population. They've been doing the same thing there. My buddy Chad Caton and some of those guys went down there and found the same thing. You know what I noticed about the pattern? By the way, we just jumped right into this. If you're like, what the hell are these guys talking about?
Yeah.
If you don't know about the daycare scandals in Minnesota and elsewhere, catch up, please, folks. We don't have time to sit here in an hour and recap the last 3-4 weeks of what's been unfolding across this nation. But let's just say, most every blue city and state looks like lots of their social service programs, whether it's feeding the hungry, homeless, kids, daycare, autism, Medicaid, you name it, the blues, the Dems, have been taking your tax money for years, probably decades, especially the last 10 years, and investing billions into pretty much fake storefronts because they know these immigrants, whether it's Somalis or whatever, or just Americans, are going to return that money after they buy themselves some Mercedes and homes and send a few million overseas. They're going to put it right back into the coffers of the campaign for the Democrats who gave them the social services programs. So it's a big vicious cycle. They've been doing it for years. Everybody better wake the hell up. And we got to find this fraud. Because I'm telling you, if you would go audit every single state, dude, you're going to find hundreds of billions probably. Because Minnesota alone, they're saying, is 8 or 9 billion.
Yes.
And Trump keeps saying that's the tip of the iceberg.
I firmly believe it is. And I expect arrests, by the way, at some point. I know the DOJ is on this, but
I'm just glad some of those scumbags got arrested that stormed the church on Sunday.
But just think, I mean, it's so you have these ghost daycares, right? Yep. So they're operated, presumably by, It's usually, I don't know, it's almost always, it seems, Somalis. So make of that what you will.
Well, in those two cities, Columbus and Minnesota.
At least. But even in Seattle, they're finding all over the greater Seattle area, hundreds of these places.
Florida, Texas, California, and as you said, Maine.
Yes.
Yeah, there's like 6 states
And
involved.
somebody walks up with a camera and a mic. They knock on the door. Hey, how are you? Just want to talk. And they're told go away. There are no kids there.
Do you ever notice how crappy they look? They're in horrible areas.
Completely.
And of course, their answer is,
Yes.
well, that's because these are needed in the downtrodden areas where a lot of poor immigrants live. And I'm like, no, you guys get a discount and deal for leasing or buying dilapidated property in crappy areas. They always have those incentive programs, right? To go in and revitalize an urban area.
Yep.
And the buildings look like complete crap.
Yes.
Right? They'll have a vinyl sign that looks like you and I made it, the Leering Center, up. The windows are blacked out. There's no playground. How is that a daycare for kids?
I had someone on the show recently who told me, here's how the scam goes. So just imagine this for a minute. So let's say you and I live right next door to each other, okay? I tell the state government, I'm watching your kids. Let's say we're brothers too, for fun. So we live next door, we're brothers. I tell the state, I'm watching your kids. The state, and then you tell the state, you're watching my kids. We live right next door to each other and we're family. We both can get state and federal money, and because we're both home business owners, we can write off all of our expenses. Then we take that money and then we send it to Al-Shabaab, or we buy lakefront property in Kenya, or a condo in Miami, or a fancy car, whatever. This is how insane
Don't
the scam
forget
is.
Mayor Jacob Fry and Governor Tim Walz's cut and the DNC, because they all take a cut. So obviously, that's one of the biggest headlines over the past month, the end of 2025 into 26. And then, of course, trailing at the end of last year into this year, of course, was big talk on taking Greenland by President Trump, putting out wars around the globe, and just foreign policy. I would say, yeah, that's probably the biggest things going into 2026 would be the fraud scandals and our foreign policy trying to put wars out.
Well, has our guest today,
because the economy's doing good. It's coming up, man.
Has our guest today been to Greenland?
Oh,
Were you telling me that? Okay.
Oh, yeah. So our guest today, which, okay, what we got to get to, he's sitting there waiting down in South Carolina in his cool man cave, his MAGA man cave. So he's a biker. Duh. He found a little group called Bikers for Trump, which has thousands of bikers across the nation involved. And if you recall, in the 2016 run, you used to see lots of Bikers for Trump groups around the nation going to the rallies, getting the vote out, and whatever. And that's so Chris Cox is the founder of that. But he's done a whole bunch more for the MAGA, America First, and Trump movement over the last 10 years since 2016. And yes, last year, after Charlie and Don Jr. and all of them went over to Greenland to talk to the people, Chris went on a fact-finding mission and was over there for several weeks talking to the locals, trying to get a feel, win hearts and minds. He found out some crazy stuff that I'd never heard of, which he'll talk about tonight.
Okay.
And obviously we now know the result of that whole hoopla because we had Davos this week. Trump went over there, put the globalists in their place. I love the fact that the UN Secretary General, what's his last name? Rutte? Rutte seemed to be sucking up and kissing the down ring, and pretty cool with Trump, the way Trump's been handling stuff, right? Because he even made a comment, I'm probably going to take crap from you out there for being positive on Donald Trump, but he's like, if Donald Trump didn't win, I don't think that a lot of stuff around the globe wouldn't have happened. And it wouldn't have. He's exactly right. If we had Kamala Harris, could you imagine the crap storm we'd be in right now, 1 year in?
Actually, I can.
Yeah. The economy would be tanking. There'd be more wars. The border would be so wide open, you and I'd be sitting at home on the frickin' watchtower defending our own homes, waiting for the next illegal to break into our house. And no, I'm not exaggerating, and no, I'm not racist, because, by the way, illegal immigration, they came in from over 163 countries. So they weren't just black and brown people. I'm so tired of hearing this whole immigration fight with the chaos that's also in Minnesota right now. That's on top of the fraud scandal with the daycare. Put that aside. The wacko paid agitators, which are mostly middle-aged white women and dudes that are there paid to do what they're doing, that's going on. Think about how crazy things would be if she won. And that's why you got to thank American patriots like our guest tonight. So without further ado, let's bring on my friend. You've never met him before, right?
No.
See, I feel like, man, this podcast not only lets the guests come on and yak about themselves, and we get to learn more about our guests we see on OAN, but it also just feeds you a bunch of guests for your talk show. The real story with Riley Lewis.
And I appreciate it.
Yeah, pretty soon you have to start paying me. Chris Cox, founder of the Bikers for Trump. Also, I got to point out, you were talking about Greenland. Chris is also, and if I don't get this exactly right, Chris, correct me. He is a presidential appointee to the Homeland Security Advisory Board. Appointed by the president to that board. And that's why one of his missions was to go over last year, do some fact finding, talk to the folks in Greenland, and then report back to the White House. But he's done so many other things over the last 10 years to help out Team Trump and this republic. So, Chris, welcome to the Anchormen podcast. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Nice to be here. You guys are cracking me up over there.
We like having a little fun to start things off. As you can tell, and I see you're all relaxed, so I appreciate that. This is not the normal talk show that we usually do here on OAN. It's what all the kids are doing, Chris. It's a podcast. They actually let us sit and hang out and relax.
I hear you, man. I'm coming off a caffeine buzz. I just had dessert, so I got a pretty serious sugar buzz here. So if I get a little wild over here, just bear with me.
Wait, can we ask what was for dessert?
Apple pie.
Apple pie.
A true American. A true American hero right
That's
there.
right. He had a hot dog, and then he ate some apple pie, and he washed it down with a Pepsi or a Coke. Very American. Well, no, it's got to be a diet.
I had two pies, and I started off with a chicken pot pie, and I moved into an apple pie, so I'm all pied out.
See? Did you wash it down with a Diet Coke? You know, Diet Coke's my favorite, Chris. I love a Diet Coke. Okay, what's up with the man cave there at your South Carolina den? I'm liking that. I'm jealous. My man cave's about half that size.
Yeah, we got a little warehouse here. It's been the epicenter of the Bikers for Trump for about the last 5 years or so, and it's fun. I got a little art studio in here for my artwork, and I don't get to stick around much. I'll be heading back to D.C. tomorrow. I've been to D.C. 4 times this month. It's 1,000 miles each way. Then on top of that, I went down to Miami for New Year's, and I just got back from West Virginia snow skiing. So I've had quite the month here at travel. It's nice to actually be sitting in my chair, my granddaddy's chair, that is.
You're not riding all those places, right? You're flying or you're driving?
No, it's way too cold. No, yeah, I'm driving. I just actually went and rented a little four-wheel drive Jeep because I hear about 2 feet of snow coming to DC. I don't want to get stuck in one place. I can't sit still.
All right, Chris, let's this is how we do this on this show. You're used to like getting 4 to 6 minutes on a talk show, which is no time at all. Now you get almost an hour. We want you to, and take as much time as you need. Where did little Chris grow up? Did you go to college? Did you go to the military? Fill us in. Then what was your career and job? And get us up to the point that you created Bikers for Trump back in 2015, 2016. So go, fill us in. We want to know about Chris.
So I was conceived here about 5 miles from where I'm at on the Isle of Palms. I'm like, okay, Mom, enough information. That's it. All right. So then I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. My father worked in politics. He went there to work with a guy named Jim Gardner to run his campaign. And then later we moved to Washington, D.C. area. I lived in Alexandria, Virginia, where I went all through grade school and high school. Whoa. And my father was the Under Deputy Secretary of Agriculture and Labor under Reagan. So he worked for Ford, both Bushes, Reagan and both Bushes. And so that's kind of how I kind of fell into politics. He was actually ran George Bush's campaign in North Carolina, and I helped him out there. And later became an advance man when the campaign was over. And so that advance work that I learned with the Office of the Vice President was kind of the compass that I used to set the path for the Bikers for Trump. And I just ran every rally I did like I was putting together a vice presidential campaign. If it wasn't free, I didn't want it. I needed a venue with a big parking lot, bathrooms, and in my case, I needed that social media reach with that could equal mine so we could get the word out there. I bounced around in several colleges, and I kept dropping out to work on campaigns. I dropped out one time to work with Colin Powell for president. I dropped out another time to my father drafted Elizabeth Dole to run for president. Quite frankly, I wouldn't mind drafting my new boss to run for president eventually. And so I just kind of got steered into politics, And so after I was an advance man for Dan Quayle, and it was quite the experience. My first trip was to Casper, Wyoming. I thought I'd be sitting around the D.C. area where I was, where I grew up, and one thing led to another, and I just kind of got fed up with politics. I thought it was just kind of a dirty business. You know, you wore a clean suit, but you had dirty dirt on your fingernails everywhere you went. And
Yep.
so I dropped out of that, and I decided to become an artist. And then lo and behold, here comes Donald Trump saying things like putting America first. But what really got me, guys, is when he said radical Islam, and it would have sank anybody else's, Kasich, Cruz, you name it. They all would have sank. And when he did it, his numbers went up. And it was so in 2015, at the end of 15, when I started Bikers for Trump, and it was just a whirlwind. 90 days later, we were being called a political phenomenon. It just caught like wildfire, and we went national. And so I would just follow the campaign around. It's kind of funny. So when I started Bikers for Trump, you know, I grew up on a mini bike. I think, Dan, we talked about we both had the Honda, the Harley 90cc 1974 AMC
Get
Harley
out of
Davidson.
here. That's right. Okay, slow down. For the bikers, got to catch up and hear that. That's back when AMF was making their engines and stuff, and they were crap. You and I had that same bike.
Yeah, I got it right out the back door. I wasn't going to show
You still
you.
have it?
Apparently, we don't have a good signal. So, you know, one thing led to another. And so when I started the Bikers for Trump, I didn't have a motorcycle with me. You know, I took some heat because I had to pull a trailer with my wood carving. So what I do, I say I'm in Florida, right? That's where we kind of start with the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I would go and I'd make a bunch of wood carvings and have an art show on the side of the road and make about $3,000-4,000. I'd go 100 miles down the road, find a dive bar, throw a Biker for Trump rally. And then I'd go and I'd set up and carve dolphins and tiki heads and pelicans. I'd have another art show, make another $3,000-4,000, go 100 miles down the road, find a dive bar, throw another Biker for Trump rally. And that's how I ran Bikers for Trump for the first year or so, all the way up into Pennsylvania. But the problem when you got to Pennsylvania, the roads are different. They don't have much of a place to pull over. Carving wood on the side of the road in Pennsylvania is not such a good idea. Plus, it was getting cold as hell up there.
Yeah.
And so, you know, one thing led to another. And before I knew it, you know, we were selling T-shirts. Like we couldn't make them fast enough. And those T-shirt sales are kind of what catapulted the Bikers for Trump. And it helped us to get organized. And so we started putting people in charge of each state. And we had state moderators. And I wanted to do it different. You know, we're not a biker club or a gang. We're a political action committee. So, you know, some of the things I learned in political science and working on other campaigns that, you know, there are a lot of laws. And so, you know, if you give over like $3,000-4,000 back then to a campaign, you're going to be breaking the law. So by forming a political action committee, I was able to stay within the framework of the law and my hopes being taken more seriously by the campaign. So when I got on the Donald Trump campaign, he didn't have Secret Service yet. I was working with a guy named Keith Schiller. And I got video from back when C-SPAN was doing all this coverage. And we're tossing these protesters out the back door. They're coming in the front. We threw some people out 2-3 times. And, you know, it was something else. It was a heck of a story, man. You know, I've actually had some publishing companies after me to work on a Biker for Trump book. And, you know, every time I want to slow down to make one and you know, and make everything make sense, something else happens. And so, you know, I just can't start that until I see where I land. One of you guys were laughing earlier about sending the bikers into to the daycare centers in Somalia, man. Right over here, you know how most guys have got deer head on their wall? I've got Antifa masks on my wall.
Nice. Antifa mask. Okay. So many questions. Hold on, Chris. I want to back up because I caught something in all that I never knew about you, and you and I chat a lot over the last few years. I didn't know that you're an artist and that you do woodwork. So is all the stuff we're seeing around you, the dolphins, the turtle, the tiki thing, all that, you carved all that stuff? That's you?
Yeah, that's mine. I've got a lot of some other guys' work too. I got some big bears and some eagles around here. I've got some stuff I've worked on with other guys and some stuff that other guys made. So when I ran for Congress, I had some of the best carvers in the world, a world champion come, and we had a big event, and we made a bunch of them. So I was getting ready to sell them for my last finance push to buy some last minute commercials. And Antifa came in town and fired a couple shots on Saturday night and lit one of the buildings downtown Charleston, South Carolina on fire. And so the auction didn't work out, and now they're just part of my collection. You know, with the FEC, you know, I'd have to be able to show their presence if they came looking for them. And they're just kind of part of the story now. And I keep in touch with most of the guys that are doing the carving. And, I can't say enough about that carving community. And when I got into it back in 1999, there weren't that many of us. And there are a lot of the guys now, and a lot of them are really good. And, that's one thing. The only thing I really could regret about the Bikers for Trump is that I've lost 10 years of evolving. What would I be making now if I hadn't been doing the Bikers for Trump? But
right.
I certainly see the Bikers for Trump as, by no means will I compare myself to a serviceman or woman or
No, Chris, don't sell yourself short, brother. Listen, you put service before self. That, to me, as a vet, is the same thing when I signed on the dotted line. You put your career and your personal life on hold to go serve the greater good by creating a nonprofit to help put in our lifetime, the best president ever to save the republic. You heard Ron and I talking. Chris, could you imagine if we had just gone through a year and a couple days of Kamala Harris? Think about what the nation and the world would look like. Yep. So whether you flipped one vote or a million votes, Chris, with your Bikers for Trump, brother, you served the republic. So don't shortchange. You had a question?
Well,
I want to know about the wood. So
I don't. Out of respect for their servicemen and women, those are heroes, and I certainly agree. I have to serve my country, but in a different capacity, and just out of respect for them, I always like to show humility and respect for them.
Good for you.
So it's good. And
Riley, you got one? By the way, can I commission you to carve something on my ranch? I got like 200 some trees on my little 3 acres. Do you do it with like a chainsaw? Could you come out like and
chainsaw, grinder, and a little bit of sand, and that's it.
I want like a big ass bear at the entrance of my house, like don't come in, like a grizzly.
I got a big ass bear right there.
I want it. I'm flying you out, Riley. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind, and I would preface this by saying, first of all, I want to echo what Dan said, because there are so many GOP groups and Republican groups who just do nothing.
Yeah.
They're not active at all. There's no sense of urgency. They're not organized. They don't raise money. They don't pound the pavement.
They don't go out and cultivate votes.
Yes. So thank you for that. I mean,
that's cultivate votes.
Yes. That's as the great Charlie Kirk would say, that's how we save America, is winning elections. And you have to get the vote out. So thank you. But I want to know how quickly the organization grew and how, I mean, it sounds like it was pretty quick and organic, but I mean, and you had chapters in every state, but did that take a long time? Because it was from 16, right? And then presumably, and then 2020, right? And then 24.
Yeah. And how many members at your peak?
Going into 16 was 90 days. We were being a political phenomenon. I was going on every news broadcast in the country. It just kind of blew up. And because, see, it was a brand new demographic, and the politics had never seen the big grizzly bikers with their goatees and their barrel chests and their skull rings and all that, and it was just a new thing. And when
I don't look like that. I'm a biker. What are you saying?
Were you using social media to find other people, or just like on the ground networking through these events?
Yeah, a lot of social media, and we blew up. So right now, I think we got about 400,000 on there. So speaking of Charlie Kirk and I went toe to toe. Up until about 4 years ago, 1 month he would do 255 million. I'd do 250 million a month. And then the next month I'd beat about 5 million. He beat me by 5 million. And we went back and forth for 6-7 years. And I just got, he was a lot better at raising money than I am. And he's got a lot more energy than I did. And, the live videos every day, I just burned out. And to me, being famous on social media was like being rich in a game of Monopoly. It sucked at the end of the day. You had to put all the pieces away. When you step on that schnauzer, and when you're not watching it, when you're going to the bathroom, ow!
Yeah.
So it was amazing. You talk about voter registration. It's so funny because we led the country, even over the RNC. This came to me from the RNC. For like 3.5 years, they couldn't. No one could keep up with this because that was what we call. That was our main thing, registering voters. And so a couple of years ago, you hear about the RNC all over the news, how they are. And I'm good friends with the RNC, by the way. I'm not talking trash, but you'll hear them out there. They're out gas stations registering voters. I'm like, you dumbasses! I started that. The biker started that. So I take $2,000. I give it to the guy there, and we take one pump, and we would never hang the pump up. And I had these hot girls. Sometimes I'd have just some regular women out there, older, holding signs up, free gas. So we talked about Donald Trump was giving them free gas. And then I have 3 or 4 iPads. And so if any of your listeners want to go to findmystate.com, our Bikers for Trump voter registration platform will come up, and it'll be a picture of the country. You just tap on your state, You can go in there, check or register, and then we will send you a self-addressed envelope with a stamp on it about 2 weeks later to remind you to if this is one of the states that you can't online register. And so, yeah, we led the charge in that. You know, that's one of the reasons that Donald Trump liked us.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
then,
did you say numbers, Chris? How many at your peak, or maybe today? What's the highest number of members you've had? And then you just brought up DJT. When did DJT take notice and reach out to you? So give me those two.
oh, very early on. By this time in his first administration, I'd already been in the Oval Office 3 times.
But did he reach out to you before he won, when you were helping him campaign?
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
I tell you what, they do their best to keep me away from him now. When Donald Trump sees me, he goes off script and he says, "That's my man. Chris, that's the Bikers for Trump." And he talks about the whole where we instead of going into the rally, we would surround the Coliseum and protect it. You know, we weren't into going in at first. We were going to stand out there and, you know, the Antifa, the Black Lives Matter, they were looking for soft targets, and they didn't see a soft target here. And a lot of these states we could carry, and we could open carry, and you know, most of the time I was carrying a fire extinguisher, the first aid kit, trying to keep everybody in line. But and it was just a hell of an experience, man. It really was. And,
I remember him talking about you guys back in the day too, because I jumped on board in 15 and I've never looked back. Like the minute he came down the escalator,
I was at 2 Christmas parties in December. And both Christmas parties in the middle, he sees me over there and he goes off, talks about me for 2 or 3 minutes. The only man in the world can make me blush. And so we've got a good relationship, and I couldn't be happier with him. And, you know, when we talk about serving our country, it makes it a lot easier when we see somebody like him fighting for our country.
Yeah, yeah.
And
did I hear a number? I missed. Did I hear a number? How many members do you think, with all the chapters around the country?
Yeah. So we got about 400,000 right now that are registered up on there. So, you know, when it's only really as strong as I am or my members are that are in each state. So if I'm traveling the country, you know, like once we got some money in the bank, 1 week I would be in Berkeley, California. Then the next week I'd be in Seattle, Washington. And next week I would be in Arizona. And I was hop skipping around. You know, I'd rent a bike when I got there, but we were moving too fast because when Donald Trump would get to a new state. So the first year, I didn't want to be anywhere Donald Trump was because I felt like grassroots, the best thing we could do was to generate public relations for him. So if he was in California, I want to be in Texas. And I want to make national news. Because if you're grassroots making national news, you're showing momentum. And so that was my whole thing. But as the campaign got going and it got full swing, we were needed more at wherever he was having a rally. And the problem was that they wouldn't announce those rallies until like 4 or 5 days ahead of time. So I had less time to pull all the guys together.
Sure.
But these guys would come out of the woodwork to get there, especially in Arizona with Boomer and Big Jim Williams and Jack. We had a good crew there. I mean, every state we've had a strong crew in. Missouri's strong. Pennsylvania and Ohio, man, we were just kicking ass and taking names, and everybody was on board. And the hardest thing was really just keeping it legit because, you know, there's never really been a bigger biker organization. There's never been a political biker organization, and you know, they say a lot of like herding cats, right? And so the first thing I would do, I made it where there was no hierarchy. So I never wore a patch myself that said president or founder. My vest looks just like everybody else's, just my name, my last name, and my state. And that way, you know, you get rid of the ego. So if you're in charge of say North Carolina, you're a state moderator. You're not a president. You know, we're not sergeant of arms. We had to keep all the titles down. Because, you know, the bikers are alpha males, all of them. And so we felt like the best way to do this was to remain all equal, all Indians, no chiefs.
That's the problem in a lot of things these days. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians. How has the membership grown, and have you seen those members over the 16, the 20, and the 24 election change as far as who were the members? What type of new members were you getting over this 10-year odyssey of bikers for Trump? Because I got to imagine that evolved, right? That evolved.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of the same original members, and then I got some. Typically, when you have a volunteer, you're going to get if you're lucky to get 90 strong days out of them. They're gung-ho, and then they're going to get tired. Their wife's not going to want to do it. And by the way, we got just as many women in Bikers for Trump as we do men. And there's just the rascals there. Them women, boy, I tell you what, I won't mess with any of them. They,
I mean, if they're holding up a
90
hog,
days.
they're probably pretty, tough. Let's be real.
They are tough. God bless them. I love them to death. They help steer the thing. So the problem is, so I got social media. This is kind of funny. They got social media, right? And we got all these states. I added all the states, and then every night, 5 o'clock Eastern time, all the bickering would start and the arguing would start because they're drinking the wine, they got the beer, and all of a sudden now, because you can't hear a tone and a text, you can't see the punctuation just doesn't show the tone of your voice. And man, I was putting out more fire than I knew what to do. So then we started. We took it a step different. Then we would have training courses for our moderators, and through those training courses, they would learn how to communicate with the other people in there so that they didn't sound offensive or sound bossy, because the bikers or anybody who wants to sound bossy or a bully to, because they'll set you straight. And we need everybody on the same page, everybody working together. And that's been the hardest part. The guys that have everybody's ever turned on me and tried to take it or tried to move on, it really came down to, it was all about the ego, but really they saw a quick buck. They wanted to sell the T-shirts and they wanted to sell patches, and they all did the same thing. They all wanted to put president. And they all put president. If you ever see a biker for Trump out there, and he has president on his jacket, you can know he's not a biker for Trump. At least not in our organization, because we don't do titles. We got two. We got man. We only got two pronouns, man and a woman. That's it.
Yeah, no pronouns in bikers for.
Pronouns in the bikers.
Yeah, we don't do
Chris,
pronouns here either. You got one, right?
Yeah, I do have a question, and I know it's only 2026. However, I do wonder about your plans for the election of 28, because that will be just as consequential as the last one. And I don't know if you're thinking of continuing this project and doing maybe a Bikers for Vance or a Bikers for Rubio, but I would love to hear the plan.
Well, before we jump ahead to 28, can you talk about how you're helping out with midterms and then how you're going to help out with 28? Because let's not put the cart before the horse. We got to get 28 locked in, Chris.
Yeah, I've had 4 meetings with Matt Brasso, which is Donald Trump's political director. I've been in White House 4 or 5 times this year so far. And that's what we mostly discussed. We're looking at Michigan. I actually the only one who developed a plan for Dearborn, Michigan. And I've got a plan there that for every 3 Muslims, we can have a Lebanese Christian cancel one of those away. So hypothetically, there's 99,000 of them. I can cancel 33,000 of them. And in a tight race, that could be just enough to do it. We're looking at the races, and we got that race in the congressional race in Pennsylvania. That particular race has over 45,000 Amish. We'll get to later. I'll do a lot of work with the Amish. We got races all over the country that we are trying to play a role in, and so we're strategizing now with Mr. Brasso.
So you are focused then on the midterms,
we're going
and going out and doing grassroots to get the vote out.
Yes, the voter registration, man. That's really all it comes down to. You got that. You got to engage them. And then you asked about the the 28. I've taken a little bit of heat because right now, the bikers are drunk. We've always done this. For the first time now, we're like this. If we go Rubio, we go Vance, we go thing, it'll never be another Bikers for Trump. It's going to start going down. It'll never be. It's going to stay Bikers for Trump until I pull the plug and we're nothing. It'll be Bikers for Trump endorse Rubio or endorse Vance or endorse Christie.
Right, you're always staying. Yeah, that's a good point. It's always going to be Bikers for Trump, but you might. And I heard you slip in a little bit ago because you were talking about your dad's upbringing in politics, and so obviously you grew up around politics and him working for different presidencies. And you said something about getting your boss to possibly run. That would be Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary, because you're on the advisory board.
I think she's a firebrand, and I got a lot of respect for her, especially after spending time with her. I'd have to resign from the advisory council, which I would not look forward to. I'm having a lot of fun there, and I've met a lot of amazing people. But if I did, that would probably be why, because I would see the value in seeing someone like her lead the country. And what would happen, maybe she would end up as a vice president and then later a president. And, maybe I could have had something to do with that. Who knows? But, that's putting the cart before the horse. Right now, we want to concentrate on the midterms. All the Donald Trump endorsed candidates. Right now, we got 4 seats in Congress, 3 in the Senate.
Yep, 2 or 3 in the Senate. You got it.
We got, when you look at the plans of the Democrats right now are to win both houses and then impeach Donald Trump, which I think for me is a far cry. I think the Democrats' numbers are far lower than anybody even anticipates they are, because there's nothing they can hang their hat on. Everything is damage control, and it's not the party that used to be. You look at go back 30 years ago, and you look at a Democrat today, that would be a MAGA supporter, a Republican.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the ones
you go back and look at a Democrat, and then you look at a Democrat today.
Yep.
And you go back 30 years ago, they would be in an insane asylum.
My grandma raised me mostly, and I remember her always talking. And she was born in 1903, passed in 96, made it 93 years. Loved Ronald Reagan. I was born in 74. We moved in with her, I think, when I was 2 or 3. My parents got divorced. And I remember being a kid, hearing her in the 80s talking about Reagan, watching all the speeches, loved him. And I remember her saying, she called them Kennedy Democrats in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Those were the Democrats you could talk to that actually agreed, Chris, on a lot of key issues with Republicans back in the day. Like, we were all patriotic Americans. We all agreed we had to have a border. We all agreed in following the law and the Constitution. Back in the day, you disagree with them on labor unions, abortion, and maybe some gun stuff. And that was about it. The other 6 or 7 big...
They'll go drink a beer after the conversation.
Not anymore. Now they want to spit in your face or kill you or God knows what. They're radical Marxist anarchists. They are disgusting, these new Democrats.
And they're trying to destroy the country.
Well, hell yeah, they are. Dude,
absolutely.
it's the...
I mean,
he brought up Muslims a minute ago. The biggest threat to this nation is not... Now, let me preface this. Yes, it's China to a degree economically. But currently, right now, it's not China. It's not Russia. The biggest threat to America in the homeland, because we will only fall from within, is the Red-Green Alliance. And that is the Marxist liberals in this country combining with the Muslims, Islam.
Radical Islam.
Yes. Well, don't say radical anymore, Chris. I cut that out of my language. Islam.
Okay.
Islam with the Marxists, right? And look what we just put in New York, a Marxist Muslim. And look, they're in control of cities now, in Michigan, in Texas. They're trying to do it in Florida. They're doing it in... This is the threat right now, is the radical lefties, the ones you see out there in the purple hair with the masks on, the Antifa BLM, the middle-aged little beta male pansies, and the Karens teaming up with the Muslims. That is the biggest threat that's going to take down the republic if we don't stop it. Chris, would you agree?
Oh, 100%. We got big decisions to make here, and I can't even imagine what it would be like to some of these policies. I mean, when we look at Virginia right now, bringing back the woke, that new governor is bringing the woke back right now.
She's a CIA guy.
She's a clown.
Yeah, she's like, oof. I'm worried about that state.
Yep.
That's the 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing.
Yep.
10 steps back. It's full on state-blown communism. I mean, the business owners, she ran on a campaign of affordability. Less than 48 hours after she takes office and is sworn in, she wants to raise your taxes. She's all about the green climate scam. She's all about the LGBTQ.
Ma'am, Dammy did it. He said you were going to get free Subway and free grocery stores. And the first thing, didn't he raise the Subway fares?
Yes.
Like a few bucks?
Yes.
And he said he was going to make them free. These guys lie to their voters' faces, and these idiots believe it, Chris. They believe it.
Hey, Chris, quick question on that note. I don't know if this is true. I don't know what the biker crowd is like at scale, but I do wonder if there are former and or recovering Democrats who've left the party, who've come over to your
camp. Did they ride away into your, because we have that buddy Brandon Strucker with the walk away movement. Do you have any ride awayers that ride to you?
It happens.
If I do, they're too embarrassed to admit it.
Well, I can tell you this. I was at the, was it Trump's rally in Coachella, October of 2024?
Oh, the one I spoke at.
Yeah, Dan spoke at, gave a great speech.
That was awesome.
It's still online, by the way. Fantastic speech.
Thanks.
It was amazing.
Thanks.
However, in addition to that, I had a lot of people come up to me who said, I was a Democrat for 20 years, for 30 years. I was middle of the road, blue dog, but loved my country. And they just didn't have the courage to leave the party until Trump came along. And then they looked at him and they said he was a former liberal in New York City for a long time. He left the party, just like Reagan did, right? The party left him. It became too radical and obsessed with destroying America. And it was just interesting to me because I rarely see Republicans leave and become Democrats. But I
bet you do. Chris,
maybe, but
I bet you do. Maybe in 2020, maybe 24. I bet you got some recovering Democrats that are bikers, because I remember Trump even, and you can tell us whether I'm wrong or not. I remember Trump, when y'all first teamed up, he would talk about, I love these bikers for Trump. They're big, tough, rough and tough guys. And he would do the whole, and they're big and burly, and they got the, but then 4 years ago, he was talking about bikers for Trump. And they're not just, remember how he changed the terminology talking about you guys, Chris? He would say they're not just the big burly biker guys. They're lawyers, there's doctors, there's people that ride motorcycle that are professionals that aren't just like a biker type dude. Everybody has that image in this country that it's just.
You got Kyle Petty. You got Franklin Graham.
Yeah.
You got
me. I don't look like a typical biker. Do I look like some big bearded
Dan
like
Ball?
Yeah, I've been riding since I was friggin' 12 illegally on the road. Yes, that's right. The minute I could get that bike on the road, man, I was out riding. So, by the way, what are you riding these days? We didn't even ask you. We're 40 some minutes in. What are you riding these days?
I got two street out back, a 1974 90cc Harley Davidson AMC dirt bike.
Oh, that's okay. That's what you're
riding. Harleys. I'm a white guy. You ever go? If you go to a rally and somebody walks up and have you seen a white guy on a black bike? That's me. And there's 9 out of 10 of us are white guys on black bikes. It's kind of funny, but well.
not to, because Harley's the quintessential American brand. But I do recall a couple of years ago, Chris, that Harley got into some. They were accused of maybe being a little woke in the Harley Davidson.
Well, they still are. Him and I have talked about that because of the idiot guy that was running them. Go off on him, Chris. That European dude.
Yeah, Levovich. Dan and I have been pushing back on him on those guys for 5 years, you know. Yes. And then at the end, they're like, "Well, you got to boycott them." Like the bikers don't want to boycott; we want to reinvent it. You know, we're not. We got to. We're more concerned about the mechanics and the 2,200 stores across the country. Where are they going to go? They do a lot of veteran support groups. You know, we're just imagine if you got out of Vietnam. And then and 30 years later, you go into Harley Davidson and you buy some brake shoes and you're ready to put them on your bike yourself, and you look at a box that's made in Vietnam. You know, these guys got out of the military. They were spit on. They were called names. You know, they were treated like they found camaraderie in a motorcycle club, and some of them went wayward, and some of them were just support groups, and other guys were lone wolves and just like to ride. And can't say enough about them, man. And we're losing guys. We're not gaining guys. You know?
Yeah. Well, so I've ridden Harleys, Hondas, Kawasaki's, Yamahas.
So who makes the best bike?
And then I have been riding, and Chris knows this, the only other up until Indian as well, because there's only been 3 American bike companies that have made it through the years, and one of them just closed up in 18. It's been Harley, Indian, and Victory. Victory opened in 89, closed in 18, didn't make it long. I ride a 2004 Victory Kingpin Touring Edition. I've been riding my Vic since 2012. I love my Vic, you know that. Right. And it was made in Spring Lake, Iowa, and it might have a couple parts from Canada because of Polaris owning them, but the majority of everything on that bike is American, assembled in America, most of the parts. And I remember when I bought that in 12, I looked it up, Chris, more of that Victory was made in America back in 12 than the Harley was. And that's what impressed me.
Right. Nothing's made in America for Harley Davidson. I mean, that's no secret anymore. You go in there, everything on every shelf is made in China, Vietnam, or Korea. And
plus, they want to go full electric with that idiot that's running them. Nobody wants a. Yeah, he was pushing. That's why Chris and I have been bitching so much. They wanted to go full electric under that European president of Harley.
But why?
Because he's an idiot and he's a green new scam guy. And bikers don't want to. We want to hear the bike. Plus, we want the four-wheelers, as we call people in cars and trucks. We want the four-wheelers to hear us so they don't hit and kill us. And so having a loud motorcycle is part of it. It's not because we want to be cool and annoy you. It's so we don't get hit and killed. I have really loud pipes, and I like it. Yeah, so you hear me.
Throw your throttle back. You throw that throttle back. It's louder than a horn, and you can throw your throttle back way faster than you can use your thumb to find the horn on there. So it definitely works. It saved my life a couple times.
Chris, thank you. Every biker just said amen and amen. I have literally done that when somebody cuts you off between the turn signal and the bright lights and the horn. You're looking for it quick, but your hand's always on the throttle. All you got to do when some idiot changes lanes on you is grab the clutch and go, rah! and then they go, oh, and see you and hear you. So, yeah.
And they're on their phones. But whatever bike they're riding, I tell you, the bikers are citizen crusaders from all walks of life. If they're not out raising money to put a roof on the house of a veteran or to having toy runs in August, they get it, and they raise more money collectively than any charity in the country, and they're doing it every weekend all across the country, and I can't say enough about them.
Bikers are good people, Chris. I'll tell you, they got a bad rap because of a few, biker gangs over the last few decades. I'd say since the 60s, 70s, right? And people just have that image. Well, they're all like Hell's Angel looking and acting guys. No, they're not. And I actually know some Hell's Angels, and some of them were kind of nice that I know.
Donald Trump gave the Hell's Angels a prop the other night. I couldn't believe it. He was talking about all of a sudden now, when we compare them to the Somalians, they're actually respectable citizens now.
That's right. Well, and to Riley's point, maybe we should send the Hell's Angels into Minnesota.
If they're not playing games, I'm all about it.
And be like, hey, boys, have at it. I'm going to go to hell for that one. Okay. See how fast 45 minutes goes? Okay, we got to get up to date now. So we know where little Chris grew up. We know where little Chris, all this influence of politics from your dad, and then you've been involved in politics too, and campaigns. And then you start Bikers for Trump. You grew to 400,000 members. How did you get, and when did you get asked to be on the presidential board for Homeland Security, that advisory board? And then we'll get to how you went to Greenland, because we want to get into the headlines of this week. So tell us how that came to be.
Real quick, we talk about the 400,000 bikers. Well, don't forget about the 500,000 Amish I have on my side.
I forgot about that.
I led them.
That's right.
I led them, and you know what? They probably helped win that last election. They carried Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So the bikers was one way, but when I got to the Amish, I had to do it a different way. I got in there, and the one guy's one of my best friends. Now he called me a blowhard. He goes, guys like you come in here every 4 years, and you're going to leave next week with your tail between your legs, and you're not going to come back because you're a blowhard. They called me a blowhard. It was like calling somebody MF in the Amish world, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. So I said, okay. So I changed my game. I started working with them. So I stopped talking politics. I started working.
Go do a barn raising. They'll respect you. I grew up around the Amish, right?
I found businesses with 50, 75 buggies in the back. And so I knew they all brought their lunches. So I'd go volunteer to work for free at that business just so I could talk to the Amish at lunchtime. By Thursday, Friday, I'd registered all that we're going to register. And then I'd move on to the next business I'd find. I went all around Pennsylvania, Ohio. And it wasn't 8 months later, I was in an Amish wedding. I've been to Paul Bear and 2 Amish funerals. I took Ambassador Mossbacher, former U.S. ambassador to Poland, after I took her to Sturgis this year, to an Amish wedding back in March, and 700 Amish people up there. So that's been quite a ride. And the Amish work I've done, in my opinion, is far more historical in a political sense than the bikers, because the bikers were they were not out of touch. They weren't out of the scene. They weren't. They didn't ignore mainstream and cable media. They read, the Amish were outside the loop. So it's a funny thing that I'll try to keep it quick. Now we're getting low. I have to talk like about dance show. I talk real fast. I'm real good at one of my dance shows.
No, you're doing.
I'm kidding.
You got plenty of time. And I love the fact that you went after the Amish vote, because I grew up around those folks in Northwest Ohio, Northeast Indiana, where I spent my summers, Southern Michigan, and those 3 states, just like Pennsylvania, huge, huge Amish population. But again, if you don't have technology and your life is your family and work, and that's what the Amish and their religion, their faith, they're kind of like, a bunch of Charlie Kirks. They like faith, family, and God and country, right? If you don't go out and talk to them, they don't know what's going on. You've got to let them know. And they're not very open and trusting unless, and I can attest to this, you got to go work with them.
Sweat equity.
Yeah.
The way I got them on board was the abortion, was how I started abortion. I told them it was their duty, their right. I'm the son of a preacher. I know the Bible a little bit about it. And so I tell them it's their duty to fight against this. If you could cast a vote and save a life, I mean, what are we talking about? Amen. And then the second thing they won't give up their guns. They hunt more than anybody. They all hunt. They're all hunt. I've never met an Amish man that doesn't hunt.
Well, yeah, they have to. That's part of their food supply. You know
what?
So
the funny thing is, how I really got them one day. I'd go around and I'd get 100 of them at a time, 200 of them at a time in an Amish 200-year-old barn, and I'm talking to 100 of them. And so one night I accidentally said, What about the first Amish guy who ever put a reflector on his buggy? He was an outcast. His kids were shunned. They had to move to a different county. Nobody liked them. I said, now look, every one of you got a reflector on your buggy, or you've got a light on it now.
Right, because that's technology, and they don't do that. Yeah.
And that was the one thing that stuck with them, and I was able to explain to them the change of the times, and it just kind of came up by accident. So.
Nice. No, that's smart. It always used to be, well, it was nothing, and then it was the little yield triangle symbol that farmers put on the back of their tractors and wagons, and then they started putting on a battery-operated light because they won't have, like, you know, electrical system on a buggy, and now they have, like, even little solar light thingies I've seen in Indiana. But I remember my uncle taking me, because he was a harness racing, you know, with the horses in the cart, the two-wheeled cart, in Toledo, Ohio, at Toledo Raceway. Every year, you know where that is, yeah. Every year, he would go over to Indiana to pick out his new horses he was going to buy from this Amish farm. And we actually spent the weekend with them. They would have a huge party and a pig roast in the ground and everything to celebrate that my uncle was going to be spending a bunch of money with them buying horses. But you didn't get to do that unless we were there the weekend working with them. We had to get our butts up at the crack of dawn and go work. And then you'd sit down and my uncle could negotiate and buy the horses. But there was no buying of horses until you worked. I've been to barn raisins and milking the cows and doing all that. You don't do that, they won't talk to you. You better earn respect. Yep.
That's interesting. Just out of curiosity, and maybe Chris, you know this, maybe Dan, you know this, but between, say, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, how big is the Amish community in this country?
Oh,
the biggest Amish community in the country is in Pennsylvania, often confused with Lancaster. In Ohio. Lancaster, Pennsylvania is where they think they're the most. The biggest population is in Wayne and Holmes County, Ohio. That's why I started there. Now, the way I found them by accident. So I was trying to help Donald Trump develop a plan to fight opioid abuse. And I got this plan where they could use mobile medical units to go into communities and with RN nurses, and then have a satellite that the doctor could talk to the addict on there and get the methadone or whatever they needed. Because at the brick and mortar buildings, drug dealers would often sit out in the back and they'd be out there ready to sell them something. So when I looked at the four biggest states in the country with the opioid abuse, Ohio was number 3. And so in West Virginia, Florida, so when I looked at the whole state, there was no opioid abuse in Wayne County and Holmes County. There was no red. I couldn't figure it out. So I went there. And when I got there, I saw it was all Amish. And I'm like, well, no shit. So then I go and dig deeper. They're the lowest in sexually transmitted diseases, the lowest in college dropout, the lowest in tax evasion, the lowest in murder, the lowest in everything you would want in a community to live. Yeah. So when I went back to Donald Trump's campaign, I explained this to him. I said, they're untapped. I go, I need some resources. I need some help. I need some literature. We need to concentrate on. No one believed me. That campaign in 2016 laughed at me. And then looking now, they were in chaos trying to register them all over and leading up to the last.
It worked in 24, didn't it? Yeah.
And now they're seen as a powerhouse. So I single-handedly was able to help change the political landscape and changed it from a purple state in Ohio. The Amish, my Amish people, they made it red. And that's why Vance slipped in there so easily. A little harder in Pennsylvania. And that's how we quantified it. So when the RNC told me that we were able to register the more voters than maybe anybody in the last 50 years, is because, see, in Lancaster, you can't quantify the number because there's so many English people living in the county along with them. But then, like Strasburg and them. But when you go into Wayne and Holmes County, there's very few of the comparative of English living with the Amish. And for the most part, those English were already registered. So we could go by first of all, we could tell by last names 9 out of 10 times, but we could tell by first-time registrations and first-time voters. And that's how we were able to show the numbers to the White House going into 20. And going into 20 is when I had a lot of help and a lot of resources from a guy named Chris Carr. And
when we actually won too. Hey, okay, now we're getting on the hour, so we didn't got to get to Greenland. Fill them in. How did you get on the Homeland Security Presidential Advisory Board, and then they sent you on a fact-finding mission to Greenland last year. Fill us in. We got 5 minutes left.
It happened different. It didn't happen like that.
Okay.
Remember what I was telling you earlier about how Donald Trump, whenever he'd see me, he'd go off script? So a lot of people on the campaign of 20 thought I was a distraction. And I was forced to help Donald Trump from behind the curtain. And so I realized that we had built the biggest political phenomenon in the last 30 years. I realized we had made history, that there'd never be anything again like it. So for the first time in my life, I kept my mouth shut. Usually when I get pissed off for every reaction, there's an action. My reaction would always put me in the doghouse. But I kept my mouth shut this time. I waited until the time was right. I went to Greenland to reinvent myself because I was being blocked. And then they didn't see me coming, and I came right down through into Greenland and right down through 60 Minutes right into Donald Trump's lap while they were bashing him, and he's on there tweeting, "I'm going to get you." And then while he's sitting there watching them bash him, they show the only Donald Trump support, the biggest Donald Trump support, and the only Donald Trump supporter by far is Chris Cox, Bikers for Trump, and it's me knocking on doors. 48 hours later, the phone rings. I guess he knee-jerked and put me on the Presidential Advisory Council for that. It had nothing to do with Bikers for Trump. He hadn't been able to see me because, I mean, and maybe they're right, for whatever reason. But that was my efforts to reinvent myself. I got lucky, and here we are now. Greenland. I saw it coming on your show. I pointed out the Denmark and their wants and wishes and success and curbing that population by 200,000 to 300,000 people. We've exposed that. It's been proved since then. So where a lot of people were saying fake news, I was able to prove them wrong. I was able to uncover a lot of other things like forced adoption, where Denmark will hold these women, these Inuit, these Greenlandic Inuits. They're like cousins of the Eskimo. And if they don't pass this test, they'll take their children from them, and they'll put them in a Danish home and erase their heritage, erase the language that they're used to speaking, erase their culture.
You uncovered, I had never heard that story. I don't think most Western journalists had heard that story. And again, with only a few minutes left, I'm gonna try to recap what Chris told me on my show about 2 weeks ago. For decades, until it finally got stopped in the 90s, the Danish curbed the population growth of the natives. That's why there's only 56,000 people on that island. There should be many, many more like Iceland, where I was stationed years ago, because no one stopped the Icelanders from reproducing. They actually stopped the women from reproducing there because the Danish didn't want to take care of them. All they wanted to do was control them. And so I'm so glad that President Trump got this deal. Yep, good.
Tell them how they did it. So they had these IUDs. They're made for women. It's a spiral. And they're made to go into the uterus of a grown woman. Well, from 1960 to 1991, they would take young children as young as 12 years old into the basement of the school, and they'd forcefully insert them into them without their knowledge, without their parents' knowledge, without anyone's knowledge. And now I was also able to uncover evidence where they ran out of them, and the doctors were making them in their basements. I have a hard time talking about it. I mean, it's unfathomable. And so, yeah, they curbed that population, but that's not the only thing. When we look at the rights that they have, and what 1953, when the Denmark went before the United Nations to acquire Greenland, well, they sidetracked a lot of resolutions because if they hadn't, they couldn't have gotten it. Right. They stated and clearly stated that there were no indigenous people on the island, which we all know is a lie.
It's a lie.
But then they came back and said that the Danish there were several marriages there, that they were trying to imply there were just random women walking around Greenland in the ice that the Vikings could marry. It's just a joke, and it's been poorly run. They've squandered it, and so it looks like we're on a path now. I hope to be traveling back there sooner than later. And
Trump said he said there's the framework of a deal at Davos this week. We don't know what that framework is, but he said he was happy with it. The UN Secretary General seemed happy with it. So with us creeping up on an hour, we got to get a final word here from Chris, not about Greenland, but I would say just about moving forward, the future of the country, Bikers for Trump, and our guy, Donald J. Trump. So with that, Chris, we'll give you the final closing word here on the Anchormen podcast, just about your mission to help keep and saving the republic, keep the MAGA America First movement going. We know Trump's not always going to be there. In 3 years, he's gone. But I don't think you and I will be from politics. So what's Chris's message to all the patriots out there watching about the future?
Well, each and every one of us are carrying a torch in our own way. Some of us are are doing it more on the silent thing, trying to influence family members in the community, and others of us like Dan are trying to influence and the country. But I'm concerned because I don't know how we're going to fill Donald Trump's shoes. His ability to mitigate 99 things at one time and do them so well, to keep a good attitude, to be funny, and to tell it like it is.
Yep.
And that's the one thing he does. He tells it just like it is. We did not elect a politician. We elected a businessman with the work ethics of a farmer. And I'm afraid it's going to be hard to fill those shoes. I, for one, will do my hardest to see that we do. But I'm scared. I pray for my country. I'm praying for these families that are out there trying to make ends meet. I think that we've got a long way to go. And I think that without Donald Trump steering this ship, we'd be going down the drain.
Yeah. So we got to build up a new leader that's not going to be like Trump, but at least wants to put forth his policy. I hope that is a JD or a Christie or a Pete or a Bobby
Marco Rubio
or Marco.
He's a serious power player.
I
love him, man. I never liked him before. Now he's like one of my favorite politicians ever.
And he works like a farmer. He's got 3 jobs now. I mean, and again, I think you're going to see a JD Vance, Marco Rubio ticket, and then I hope that they keep most of Trump's cabinet people in those same spots, like your boss Christie. And then after 8 years of JD, who knows? Maybe it'll be Marco Christie, and we get 8 years of Marco.
Maybe Marco
and then Christie,
Pete.
and then Christie runs with Tulsi, 2 women on the Republican, and we get 8 years of, and then 8 of Tulsi, and we got 30 years until I'm old and almost dead of Republican presidents. Anyway, we got to run. That's my wish and dream for the country. Can we have Republicans run us for the next 50, 100 years?
Hey, I got my brother-in-law here, Ryan Barons, is my cameraman. He's helping me out with the lights and all night. Thank you, Ryan. And I can't thank you guys enough. Dan, you're amazing, and Peyton, she's a beautiful young lady, and we're looking forward to seeing some kids coming around here sooner than later. What do you think?
Take it easy, pal. We're trying. He's talking about my new wife. Yes, we are trying to have a baby. I'm doing it at 51. I'm literally, my 18-year-old graduates in 4 months, and we're working on a new kiddo. So, yeah. I'm going to be busy, too. Chris Cox,
the world will be a better place.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm single. I'm just going to keep practicing. Leave the kids up to you.
The practicing is the fun part. Chris Cox, everybody, founder, Bikers for Trump, also an advisory board member on the National Security Council for the President. God bless you, brother. Stay safe out there. As they say in biker world, keep the paint up and the rubber down. See you, Chris.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.
Yep, appreciate you.
Ooh, we need another hour,
I know.
hour and a half.
I told you. All these guys always fill. We didn't even, I mean, we could have talked.
Well, I had a lot more questions.
Current stuff.
I mean,
he's got.
I can't believe we ended with the Greenland thing. That's a crazy story. And you're right, no one's talking about that. But,
Nobody.
But here, the thing for me then is, so there's a lot of manufactured opposition, I think, to this deal to secure Greenland. I want to know, is it just the EU that opposes it, or is it the people, the natives? What do the natives of Greenland
I can tell you
actually want?
He put me in touch with 2 Greenlanders that are on their parliament, a female and a male. The female was, I think, in her 30s. The male was in his late 20s, so younger Greenlanders.
These are natives?
They're natives.
Okay.
Born and raised. They told me that the media, the Danish TV that pumps in their lies, and obviously stuff coming from the UK is the BBC and those lying pricks, they're, of course, anti-Trump. So a lot of locals only see that media. But the folks that actually have an interest in looking on the internet and finding other things, yes, a big portion of Greenlanders are open to the U.S. not taking over, but having our bases, helping with the minerals and all that, keeping China and Russia out, as long as, and this is what they told me, Trump would work to give them full sovereignty within a few years. That's what they want.
That's interesting.
They want sovereignty. They don't want Danish rule. They don't want America rule.
They want to be their own state.
They obviously would love to have our protection,
of course.
but they want sovereignty. And they confirmed what he told me about them restricting the birth rates for like 30, 40 years. That country should have like 600,000 to 800,000. It's got 56,000 people.
That's sick. That's
the
really
Danish
sick.
did that.
That's really sick.
And then he also told me, and she told me, you have a lot of Stockholm syndrome. The older ones are confused about all this America taking over, annexation, blah, 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 and just want to stay with the Danish because it's what they know and safe.
Okay.
So, again, since they're getting mixed messages, which we can relate to in this country through the media, I think a lot of them don't know. From what they said, he felt like it's like 50-50, 51-49. Like half would be fine with the U.S. doing it, half would not. But if they could get the full story and they were promised sovereignty, he said it would be 80-90% would be okay with us not taking over, working with them to have full sovereignty.
Understood.
So we'll see how this all plays out.
All right. I support that. Make them a sovereign state. Then
that's what Trump always supports.
Of course.
Look, he wants you to be sovereign and have national pride. And if every nation did that and didn't start poking around everywhere globally, I think we'd have a lot better countries around the planet.
Fair. Agreed. Completely agreed.
Faith, family, country.
Amen.
Follow that. Follow what Charlie says. Be happy, make babies, get married, start a business. You know? And that's what I think Trump would want for Greenland.
Yeah.
Like, you imagine if you would let us do the dome, keep you safe, get Russia and China out of your waters, and then help you extract, because you're going under how many feet of frozen tundra, help you extract the massive amounts of uranium and other rare earth minerals you got, all 56,000 of you folks could be rich and secure.
Bingo.
The Danish ain't doing that for you. Why don't you let Trump help you?
Bingo.
I'm done.
Agreed. I'm glad. That's interesting. I'm glad you said that, by the way, because it's hard for me to make sense of it. But the propaganda factor obviously is huge, and it's unfortunate.
That's all it is anymore in any.
Yes.
I don't care what subject you bring up. In today's modern era, if you bring up anything geopolitical, you have to bring in the media factor because people aren't getting the full story.
Of course.
Because they're lied to by 98% of the damn media.
Yep. Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know that well as someone who's worked in media for how long has it been? I mean,
33 and a half years.
That's what you must. Was it this bad when you started? What was it? It could not have been this bad when you started. Not
of course
close.
it was not. In 1993?
I imagine they had standards then, right? They wouldn't just manufacture nonsense all the time. Just
I mean, I'm not
going to
say they weren't being biased. They weren't skewing in 93. They weren't lying to us. But I would say it was a lot less on a scale than compared to today. Yes.
Okay.
Huge.
All right. Understood. Okay.
Should we do the bookkeeping?
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff. Just really quick. So, of course, our amazing sponsor.
Didn't even have any. Go ahead.
Yeah, our amazing sponsor is Grunt Style, as always. They re-upped with us for another year here, so they're responsible for this awesome merch. That shirt, this cool box.
You shut up, commie!
That's the best shirt they make, I think.
I don't know. That's pretty badass.
It is, too. Actually, let's get a shot of this. This is an amazing shirt. Incredible.
That's good.
I see these all around, by the way, all the time.
Yeah, they got awesome stuff.
I was in Cabo. I think I saw some of their gear. In Cabo.
Don't forget, proceeds go to the foundation side, not their company merch side, which then helps with veteran services. That's why we like Grunt Style.
Veteran-owned, veteran-operated, incredible guys. We've had Tim Jensen from the organization on, who's also incredible.
Really cool bullet glasses.
And then, of course, other stuff really quick. We have to talk about our talk shows, our news, what's going on in the newsroom.
Yep, Riley's got the real story. Over the next few months, you're going to be seeing our friend David Pollack filling in for Chanel. Congrats again, Chanel. She had another baby, but Chanel will return. The Matt Gaetz Show, who does the other Anchormen podcast, and then my show, Real America with Dan Ball. All the 16 hours of news, besides the 4 talk shows. Again, find everything online at oann.com to find the lineup, all the new carriers. We just got OAN Plus on Prime Video a week or two ago.
Huge deal.
That's huge.
Amazing.
OAN Plus is also on Pluto and Roku, plus the live OAN version is on Dish. We're hoping to get back on Direct. We're crossing fingers. Spectrum, Sling TV. So OAN growing. Always a big thanks to the man behind all of this, which is Mr. Robert Herring, or just H, Mr. H. Thank you. God bless, brother. We're done.
Talk about someone, by the way, with an incredible work ethic. Just we were talking about that earlier about President Trump.
80-some years old, right? Like almost Trump, and
beyond impressive.
Go.
Beyond impressive work ethic.
They don't stop.
An inspiration. And of course, we're on social media, YouTube, X, Facebook, Truth Social. We got clips. We're putting out articles all the time. So be sure to, click like, subscribe, notifications, all that stuff so you can keep up with us.
And the Anchormen podcast, if you don't know, if you're just finding it tonight for the first time, every Friday, 7 p.m., this one drops on OAN's X, YouTube channel, and Truth Social. So you can always watch them Friday nights, 7 p.m. And then, like I said, I don't know the timing, but they do rebroadcast these on Saturday and Sundays over on OAN Plus.
Okay.
You've been good? We didn't get to catch up at the beginning. Everything good?
I think that, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Just,
okay.
Like you, just, I know, there's too much. There's too much. But it is, I will say this. It's an amazing time to be an American. This is the next golden age. I haven't been this optimistic for this country in a long time. We went through 4 years of hell with Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, corruption, and just our country was invaded. However, we have a serious person with a serious cabinet, and these are no-nonsense people, and they work around the clock.
Who believes in the republic the way it is, not trying to reshape it in some socialist Marxist BS like cackling Kamala would have.
Seriously.
And I got to say, this is only year 1. There's 3 more. And with that, we bid you adieu. We'll see you next week.
Want to see more great videos like this? Click on the link below to subscribe to OAN Live and watch Dan Ball's Real America and The Matt Gaetz Show on Dish Channel 212. Tune in, subscribe, and watch today.